Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 14 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time for the final time this calendar year. We are so delighted to have you join us. Gitano, you look fantastic in that Christmas hat. We are both in the Christmas spirit, as we can clearly see. How are you on this fine evening, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, Scarps, and you are also looking fantastic in that sweater. Love it for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to our final show here of 2024. It's going to be a great one, and we're going to close it out with a bang. In today's show, it will be short, it will be sweet. We're going to talk about Europe's Big Five and the Carabao Cup. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And just before we get into today's show, you would have already gathered based on what we've already said that this is our final show of 2024. And as the holidays edge ever closer, Gitano, it's kind of that running theme every year, not just for whatever, but at this time, really, that we show really our appreciation in our everyday lives for, everything that we have, what we would like to have, what we want to see moving forward, etc. We just tend to become a little bit more cognizant, more weary of what this time of the year really means. Um, and this show has connected, so many people, and it's cultivated fantastic relationships, and not just in the 91 Network community, but in the soccer community, in the sports community largely, and even beyond that. So just kind of wanted to pass it over to you before we get into a few other things about, what this show has meant to you as we kind of approach the holidays here.
Yeah, I mean, this time of year always kind of brings that out, like you said, and just, I always just think back to like our Little Caesars days, slinging pizza, and now, to be, a decade later, sitting here still, this close with you. Obviously, not through pizza anymore, through this and soccer as a whole. It's just, yeah, I'm just really thankful for this connection, for this opportunity to talk about the beautiful game with one of my best friends, and for it to just kind of become like not just us, sitting around talking about it, but be shared, and for having people interact and people wanting to listen in on that and contribute. Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. I'm very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, and I share the exact same sentiments, my friend. I couldn't agree more. And we're going to take a little trip down memory lane for everyone. The first episode of this show was recorded on June 24th, 2021. That show was recorded alongside our beloved friend, the late Scott Nason, who tragically passed away in 2022. He will forever remain in our hearts as being one of the main people who provided us all a platform for us to express ourselves in the world of sport, along with being an amazing human being, of course, and as well as a great friend. At the time of the first ever recording of this show, our show was branded as the Game Sports Show Soccer Edition. And on November 17th, 2021, our show was rebranded and officially named Full Time as its own entity of the Game Sports Podcast, or the Game Sports Show, I should say, excuse me. And here we are today, 3.5 years later, and we're running our segment on the Game Sports Podcast powered by 91 Network, still going strong as ever with Full Time. So, Gitano, our show has been one of the greatest blessings in my life personally. This is our 64th episode together, you and I, on Full Time. Time is just flying. We've been friends, like you said, for a decade. This show is just one of the few things that makes our friendship that we have so amazing. And, in the spirit of Christmas, I want to send my deepest appreciation to you, my friend, as well as everyone at the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Honestly and truly, I couldn't be any more grateful for you being one of my best friends as well, and the relationship that we share. And again, long may this continue, not just on this podcast, but for everything that we do. So kudos to you, my friend, and thank you for everything.
Thank you to you, Scarps, and the feeling is the exact same back towards you. And like I can't imagine, 10 years ago, if you'd pitched this to me 10 years ago when we were sitting at Little Caesars, like I would have laughed in your face. Like this it just is insane. But yeah, just so grateful for this.
Yeah, and time is a funny thing. Anything can happen with time, and that's kind of like how life goes, really. And speaking of time, for the final time in 2024, without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started with a look at Europe's Big Five. In the Premier League, Liverpool leads the race going into Christmas with Chelsea firmly in second, Arsenal in third, and Nottingham Forest in fourth. Gitano, break down for us the Premier League.
Yeah, again, Liverpool not quite slipping yet, but starting to stumble a little bit. Two back-to-back draws. Chelsea's closed the gap now to 2 points. Liverpool still do have the game in hand, though. But yeah, it's definitely not the title race people thought it was going to be 2 weeks ago when Liverpool were kind of not quite running away with it, but starting to get a little bit of a head start. It's really tightened the gap up top there. But still, like a lot of teams, including like Bournemouth, Villa, and City, who are still like very much, within fighting distance. Nottingham Forest kind of shocking the world, sitting in fourth, just about going to Christmas here. Yeah, it's not at all the title race that I don't think anyone is expecting.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But going into this busy Christmas period, if this is how it is, we know that anything can happen. So it's going to be a ton of games, and I can't wait to see the shakeups that happen in the Premier League. And in the relegation zone, Southampton, Wolves, and Ipswich Town remain at the bottom. Ipswich Town will be looking to get out of the basement and possibly slip Leicester, Everton, or even Crystal Palace into there during this busy period. But will that happen?
Um, I think they've shown a lot of like glimmers of potential. Liam Delap's been on fire for them. Huge win this past weekend against Wolves, who are below them in the table right now. So they're going to have a little bit of confidence. Um, they have Newcastle, which could Newcastle's been a little on and off this year, haven't been quite what everyone was hoping they would be. So I think they're definitely there for the taking. I think, and especially just the sheer volume of games played over like the next 3 weeks, there's definitely a possibility that Ipswich climbs out of the relegation zone, but also could easily like slip right back in as well.
Yes, totally agree. And on a side note, I'm really interested to see what happens with Wolves. They did sack their manager, Gary O'Neill, which they came out, and it was one of the most weird things, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. They come out and they say that they back the manager, that they have confidence in him, and not being funny, a mere, well, I think it was like 36 hours later, they sacked him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the weirdest thing. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But yeah, Wolves will be asking some questions themselves. In Italy, Serie A, Atalanta continue their red-hot form, holding first place in the division. Napoli is second, Inter third, and it's Fiorentina and Lazio joint fourth. Gitano, can Atalanta sustain this intense run that they are on?
I don't know if they can, sustain it over the course of the rest of the season, but if they can keep this going for, call it another 5-6 games domestically, plus whatever cup competitions they're in domestically and in Europe, I think that would be more than enough to, again, not run away with the title, but really set themselves up nicely for a real title challenge. But I don't see them sustaining this. We're at the halfway point of the season. I don't think they could sustain this for the whole rest of the season.
Yeah, it's too early and it's too strong of a run to be able to sustain it all the way through, in my opinion, as well. So I'm on the same page as you, sir. La Liga in Spain is all square. Barcelona and Atletico Madrid are tied for first with 38 points, given Atletico's incredible run of form. Real Madrid is within touching distance with 37 points. Athletic Club remain fourth. Gitano, what a race that we've got on our hands here now as we approach the halfway point in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, like the next game this weekend is Atletico and Barca. So, like, again, not a title decider in December, but can very much set the pace for kind of how the rest of this title race turns out. But yeah, Atletico, I mean, they're always in there. They're always kind of in the discussion, but it's taken a little while. But their summer signings have all started to kind of gel really nicely. Sorloth and Alvarez are scoring almost for fun now. The defense has tightened up. Like they look like a very, very, very good side right now.
Yeah, and just given how the schedules worked out, you couldn't have scripted it any better. Football is a weird, funny, great thing, isn't it? In Germany's top flight, the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich is unbeaten, no more. They suffered their first defeat of the season, but still hold on to first place with 33 points. Leverkusen is climbing their way up the ladder with 29 points. Frankfurt and Leipzig sit third with 27 points each. Gitano, Bayern showed that they are vulnerable for the first time this season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they react. Obviously, they've lost in Europe, but losing domestically for them is not something they do very often. So I'm really excited to see how Vincent Kompany is able to rally the troops and kind of either kind of hop right back into that run of form, or whether he struggles a bit and they kind of slide. I'm just really excited to see, and Bayer Leverkusen have closed that gap like really, really nicely. So it's not like they've kind of given themselves a bit of a bubble here. Like it's a couple points, like it's a game week or two of slip, and Leverkusen could be up top. So I'm super excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, me too. And it's either going to be one way or the other for Bayern. They're going to bounce right back up, or they are going to slip for a little bit. And if they do slip, you can anticipate that Leverkusen will be right there to pounce. And in France's Ligue 1, the gap is now double digits. PSG remain perfect and have 40 points to their name. Behind them is both Marseille and Monaco with 30 points each. Gitano, I say that PSG is perfect. Obviously, they have, I think, about 4 draws, give or take, so they're not perfect per se, but they are unbeaten. Is this the time now that PSG starts to cruise with this thing?
Typically, yes. I'm not quite sure there's enough competition in Liga right now to really challenge them, to really push them. But I do expect PSG to slip and slide just a touch. They won't slide out of first, but I don't expect them to go this whole season unbeaten. They're still a really young team, and really like inexperienced team in these positions. So I don't expect them to kind of go perfect and like run away with it like we're expecting them to, like they typically do. But I definitely think they're going to have some harder moments in the upcoming weeks here.
Yeah, and for me, I'm actually gonna say something that I'm just gonna put my neck out on the line because I know that you in our preseason show you said that PSG would win the league. So did I. So we both believe that. I'm gonna put my neck out right now that I think this league is done. I think that PSG, they're not going to run away with it. I think that they're going to slip up here and there, and I don't think that they're going to remain unbeaten. To your point, but I think now just with the gap being double digits, it might get close to like 7 or 6 at some point here, but I think that PSG are going to be clear of this maybe mid-January. So I'm going to put my neck out on the line, and that's my big show for 2024 as we wrap up this year, that PSG are going to run away with this thing in pretty short order. We now shift gears to the Carabao Cup. The quarterfinals have wrapped up, and we will highlight each game for you all here and now. First, it was Arsenal who hosted Crystal Palace, defeating them by a score of 3-2. Gitano was a slightly rotated side for Arsenal, and these two teams do match up in the Premier League this weekend, so back-to-back games in the space of 3 days. But the job does get done, largely thanks to Gabriel Jesus and his masterclass. He scored a hat trick. He was amazing in that game. So your analysis of the game, sir?
Yeah, I won't touch on it too much because I would like to hear your your thoughts on it, considering it's your team. But I will say, Gabby Jesus, when he has those games, one of the best players in the Premier League. Unfortunately for him, it doesn't happen too often anymore. But yeah, it's nice to see that kind of that flash, that Brazilian flair, especially in the middle of winter in London. It's not typically as pretty. But yeah, to see him pull that out, it was really, really special. That was a fantastic performance by him.
It was. And the first half, to be honest, I wasn't totally impressed with any of the Arsenal players. It was a little bit touch and go there for a bit. But Odegaard comes on in the second half. Saliba comes on, and you could just see the complexion of the game completely change. Gabby Jesus comes right into the game. He's buzzing around the pitch. And, it's always a sign of a good player. I've always said this as a coach. I've said this as a player myself. The sign of a good player is if you want the ball and you don't hide. And Gabby Jesus was everywhere on the pitch. And it was just great to see. So I'm glad that should really, in theory, give him a bit of confidence. And hopefully the ball starts hitting the back of the net for Arsenal more and more. And for his sake, I hope that he scores a few more goals as well. But Arsenal are through to the semifinals. It's exactly what we wanted out of the tie. So, yeah, couldn't be any more happy in that regard. Newcastle took on Brentford and made the most of their home fixture. Newcastle takes down Brentford by a score of 3-1. Gitano, Newcastle were very good on the day. So your thoughts as they advance here to the next round?
Yeah, they played a lot like we, and I say we, not just me and you, we as the general soccer community just kind of wanted them to play since the Saudi takeover. Um, they've they looked like that fast, dynamic, attacking team. Played with a ton of possession, and especially playing at St. James Park, like just for them, it's just so easy to like be on the attack there. That crowd is just so loud and obnoxious isn't the right word, but they just pushed that team so hard. I really thought Brentford was gonna put up a little bit of a better fight, but when Newcastle plays that way, it's there are very few teams in the league that are able to beat them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think we both have to hold our hands up. In our last episode, we said that St. James's Park wouldn't be enough for them to get over the line, but it certainly was enough. And yeah, Newcastle were very good on the day. Brentford probably weren't at their best, but regardless, Newcastle go through in this competition to another semifinal, which in the past couple of years they've done pretty well in. Liverpool made the best of their match against Southampton, defeating them by a score of 2-1. G, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean the scoreline would suggest it was a lot closer than it probably was. Um, you know, Liverpool probably again like statistically dominated. Probably should have won this game by 3 or 4 or 5. Um, but Southampton, showed a bit of life, showed a little bit of. I mean, yeah, just you wish they would have played like that kind of a little more throughout the whole game. There were definitely pockets of the game where they just 11 men behind the ball and prayed. But when they did get forward, they created some decent chances, scored their one. And I think for them, obviously going into this matchup, you don't go into it expecting to beat one of the best teams in the country. But I think they can definitely take, as kind of shitty as it is, to take some really good positives from this performance. Say, hey, like we pushed Liverpool pretty close, somewhat close. If we can do that against half the teams in the league, we should get some results and get out of the relegation zone. But yeah, I don't think this was terrible of a performance for Southampton. Liverpool really didn't get out of second gear. Just kind of pretty bog standard result. Everyone was expecting this.
Yeah, everybody was expecting it, maybe a little bit, again, closer scoreline wise than most people expected. But regardless, Liverpool are through, and rightly so. And it's what, again, most people would have expected. And it was a goal fest of sorts in the Tottenham versus Manchester United game. In the end, it was Tottenham who sank United by a score of 4-3. Gitano, what could be said about this game? Because it was a little bit all over the place.
This is like I don't think it was consecutively, but it was a year or two ago. They did the same thing. I think it was in the FA Cup instead of the Carabao Cup. We just had like one of the best games of the year, and I hate it because I don't particularly like either of them, and I don't want to watch. But it feels like every time they play, specifically in cup competitions, it brings out the best in both of them. I thought this was again one of like the best games of the calendar year, which I really like. I should now come to expect it, but you wouldn't expect Spurs and United in the Carabao Cup to be this quality. I thought it was just like one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a really good game. They kind of brought the best out of each other, and both teams needed this win for different reasons. United to kind of keep their, sort of new manager bounce, even though it hasn't been a new manager bounce, but to just get some wins under the new manager. And Tottenham, with the disarray that they are in with their manager and their club, they needed it as well. But Tottenham do get it over the line, and yeah, either way, we wouldn't have been happy with whatever team won, but regardless, it is Tottenham who go through. So in terms of our picks, Gitano, we both go 3 for 4. We picked the exact same. We were right about Arsenal. We were right about Liverpool. We were right about Tottenham. We did get the Newcastle game incorrect, but I think we did pretty well here, G, going 3 for 4.
Yeah, and I mean the only one we didn't get right was kind of the 50-50 toss up. So I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, my friend. The next round of the Carabao Cup will be played over 2 legs in the semifinals. The draw hasn't been made yet, but in the next episode of Full Time, we will be able to preview the semifinal matches for you all. And that first leg will go on January 8th, 2025. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we round out today's show, we want to extend our thanks to all of you for being here with us, not just today, but with this entire year. So, Gitano, this is our last one of 2024, and I'm so glad that we got to do it together once again tonight, my friend. Great show this evening and a great year in the books.
Yeah, as always, just thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. It's one of the bright spots of the week every week that we record, um, and like all year. This has been a crazy hectic year for myself with the house and the just life in general. And it's just been like so nice to have this consistency of like Thursday night 7:30, sit with Scarps and talk soccer. It's just been yeah, it's been fantastic all calendar year. And just thank you again for having me on. I love you. You're one of my best friends. This is just the time of my life.
Love you too, bro. And I gotta say, there's few constants in life, and I'm certainly glad that this is one of our, mutual constants that we can, use in our lives to, really just have that sort of peace and stability. So the show's brought us a lot. It's going to continue to bring us a lot, and I can't wait for everything that's ahead of us. Not this just in this show, but everything that's ahead of us, both individually in our lives. A reminder to our listener that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of January 6th, 2025. That'll be our first show of the new year. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the Carabao Cup, and a brief look at the January transfer window. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at sue.spaces.ca. For Gaetano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you. We will see you in the new year. Best always.